Hello, everyone. This is Paul Zarowski at the James Camp Public Library. As 2023 is coming to a wrap, it's time for us to do our staff recommendation videos. If you're unfamiliar with these, we have each staff member make a video where they talk about 5 items they discovered during the previous year and why you should want to try them. So this is my pile here. I'm just going to jump right into it. First one is technically a bit of a cheat because it's a remastered, but it's Advance Wars Reboot Camp. This is a remastering of the first 2 Advance Wars games, which originally came out for Game Boy Advance, and it got remade onto a Switch version. I absolutely loved these games as a kid, and I still love them as an adult. They're a lot of fun. The idea of it is turn-based combat where you're building up an army by doing so by capturing territories, which gives you funds to be able to purchase more and more expensive units as the game progresses. It's also got a really big rock, paper, scissors mechanic to it. Like, you'll have tanks that do really good against anti-air, and anti-air does very good against helicopters, but helicopters do really good against tanks. So you have to strategically build your army based on how your opponent's building theirs and how to counteract their stuff and vice versa. The other part of it that's really fun is you choose a commanding officer who they all have different strengths and weaknesses to like lead your army. Basically, they represent you in the game. So there's one guy who his aerial units are more powerful, but his naval units are weaker. There's another guy who his close range combat units do extra damage, but his ranged ones like artillery and rockets have reduced range and they don't hit as hard. So there's a lot of replay value to this game. You should really check it out if you haven't. All right, next one is my favorite horror movie I found this year, and I'm a big horror movie junkie, as a lot of people know. This is Cobweb. This originally came out on Shudder, and we managed to get in around October. The idea of it is kid living with his 2 parents. His 2 parents act very weird. They're very secretive. They lock up the house hardcore every chance they get. The basement door is behind the refrigerator, stuff like that. And a couple years ago, a young girl disappeared during trick-or-treating on Halloween. And that's when his parents started acting like this. So one night while he's in bed, he hears somebody talking to him through the walls, who claims that his parents put her there and they're going to kill her soon. And when they do so, he's going in after her. He's going to be the new person on the walls. So he's got to figure out how to save this person before it's too late. There is a 3rd act twist to this movie that is so great. This is such a fun movie. If you love horror, you really should watch this. All right, next up, this is book 1 of a trilogy, which is Renegades. This is a very fun series. I absolutely loved the 3rd one. It was probably my favorite of the 3, but they're all still very good. The idea of it is it's a world where superheroes and supervillains exist. For a while there, the supervillains had the upper hand, and there was just anarchy everywhere. Basically, their version of the Justice League formed, rose up, beat back the villains, and reestablished order. It's supposed to be like within like 10, 15 years. So that structure is still kind of wobbly a little bit. Things are still being figured out. The main character, she is the niece of who was the leader of the bad guys, Ace Anarchy, who was killed. Her power is like if she touches you, she can make you just instantly go to sleep. The superheroes, the good guys, have a junior division where you can go through trials to try to join and eventually maybe work your way up through the ranks. Kind of like My Hero Academia, if you're familiar with that at all. So she decides she's going to infiltrate them to try to learn their secrets and try to figure out ways to take down the good guys. And on the way, there's a whole bunch of twists and turns. She ends up falling for this guy who, he also has a bunch of secrets and whatnot. It's a great trilogy. Highly recommend you read it, especially if you like superhero stuff. It plays with some tropes a little bit. It's one of those where like the good guys and the bad guys sometimes are a little vague on that part. This next one actually came recommended to me by Sam on staff, and if she's watching this video, she knows immediately what I'm going to start talking about. This is Cursed Princess Club. This is the 2nd one. Fortunately, the first one was checked out, which has a better cover for talking about this. But it's a webtoon series. It deals a lot with like mental health, how you view yourself and your relationships in life. It follows these 3 sisters. The first 2 are like traditional Disney princesses. The 3rd one, she's considered to be a little bit ugly. Here's actually the family right here on the back. I'll zoom on that. So the main character is this one here, the one in the green. That's Gwen. So the idea is she's supposed to be kind of ugly, but she's a absolutely sweet girl who everybody loves. The 3 princesses are supposed to marry these 3 princes from another kingdom in order to like merge the 2 kingdoms together. And the one that's supposed to be courting her, basically she overhears him say that he thinks she's ugly, and that just like kind of breaks her a little bit. She ends up running away from the castle, and she meets the Cursed Princess Club, which is a club of cursed princesses. They'll have like funny little curses to them. There's like one girl who her saliva is acid. My personal favorite one of the group is she was a lobster who got cursed into being a human. So like a twist on like the Little Mermaid stuff. And through that group, she begins to kind of learn to value herself outside of relationships and whatnot. It is a very fun series. We have the first 2 volumes, and a good chunk of the series is available online for you to read on Webtoons. So it's supposed to be ending soon. The last one is probably my favorite book I read over the year, which is Jason Pargin's Zoe is Too Drunk for This Dystopia. This is book 3 of a series, which is the Zoe Ash series. It's from Jason Pargin, obviously. Basically, the idea is there's this town in the not too distant future where it's like kind of cyberpunky-ish, but the only rule of law is enforced basically by the wealthy. If you don't have a personal security group, like the police don't really do anything. Anarchy kind of exists a little bit. Her group, or the main character, she inherits her father's criminal empire, and they're kind of like trying to create a sense of order, constructed order within this town. This book follows a election for mayor where her group is trying to influence the vote, not by like cheating or influencing or like changing votes or anything like that, but like influence the way people think of the 2 different candidates. Deals a lot with celebrity worship, the gamification of elections, how we treat those positions once the election is over. This is an absolutely fun book to read. It's also got a lot of wacky characters. I mean, a guy shows up whose name is Pistol Wizard. What's not to love about that? Deb's laughing behind the camera. So, yeah, Jason Pargin, Zoe is Too Drunk for This Dystopia. So those are my recommendations for 2023. Hope you check them out. And we're also going to be showing, you'll also see the other staff videos up in the not too distant future. So you guys have a good one, and hope you enjoy the rest of 2023.
Hi, I'm Samantha Verts, and these are my 5 items that I would recommend for this year. The first one that I'd like to show is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. And specifically I want to recommend the audiobook because I listened to this audiobook while I was going on a trip, and it was very enjoyable. I listened to it with my sister, and it was fun because we got to talk about the characters and like guess what was going to happen next. It was just a good time. And yeah, and I never listened to audiobooks before too, so this was pretty cool to have playing in the car and to be productive while driving, it felt like. So yes, I'd recommend this one. Oh, and as to what it's about this girl who is a janitor at a aquarium, and she becomes acquainted with this octopus here, and there's a lot of like side drama too, like the fact that her son died many years ago and she's still trying to figure out how that happened and the mystery around that. But yeah, it's really interesting. I really love the characters in it. Okay. The next thing that I'd recommend is this movie. This movie is called Everything Everywhere All at Once, and if you haven't heard it already, it's been a Best Picture winner at the Oscars, so you know a lot of people like it, including me. So it's sort of like a sci-fi sort of movie where it's this woman who gets encountered with like alternate dimensions, and she's like a very average woman. You know, there's nothing too special about her, I would say. But then as you come to learn, you know, there's some specialness, and it really explores like deep concepts and like ideas, which I think is really beautiful, and it does it in a really fun, entertaining way, and it's really funny too. So yeah, I'd recommend this one. And then the next one that I recommend is Hooky. Hooky is a series, and it's a graphic novel series, and the art is just so beautiful, and the story is beautiful. The characters you get to feel really connected with, and I just really love it all around. And Hooky follows this story of these two, they're twins, and they're also witches. So they live in this like magical kind of world where people are either witches or they're not, and these two have a prophecy foretold that one of them is going to end up being the king of the witches and is going to bring out destruction and despair to the whole world. But they're both such sweet little innocent kids, so it's really hard to imagine how that's going to happen, or if it's going to come true, or you know, it's a big mystery, and it's very interesting. And there's 3 volumes, and I haven't finished it yet, but yeah, it keeps you captivated. You really grow to really love and enjoy these characters. Okay, and then the next one that I have is collected plays by Arthur Miller. Specifically, the one that I read was The Crucible in here. And if you haven't heard about The Crucible, it's about the Salem witch trials, but like a dramatized version of it. And I thought it was really interesting because it has like these concepts that Arthur Miller applied to his own day with, you know, the witch hunts of, you know, accusing someone of something and trying to find out, you know, who's the witch in the society in a sort of way. And you can kind of even parallel it to today with like how there's like cancel culture and about how we're trying to figure out who the witch is, you know. And it's very interesting, and it keeps you thinking about those concepts. And this is another thing too, where just reading it, you can feel the performance, because it is a play, and you're reading a play. But even while reading it, Arthur Miller is an excellent writer, and you can just feel the emotions in it, which is awesome. Okay, and then the last one I have to recommend is The Quiltmaker's Gift, which is actually a book that I recommended the library get, because this book was very special to me in my childhood, and we just got it this year. And then we also have the sequel to it, or prequel, I guess, which is The Quiltmaker's Journey. But this one is kind of the first one that was published, and it's the one that a lot of people it's most famous, I guess. And one thing I really love about this is its artwork again. It's very detailed and colorful and beautiful. And also the story. So the story follows how there's this prince, this guy right here, who has everything that he could possibly want. And then there's this old lady, the quilt maker, who makes these beautiful, gorgeous quilts. But her only thing is that she only gives them away to poor people. So he wants one of these beautiful, gorgeous quilts. And it's basically his way of getting one of those, and her way of giving it to him, which is really interesting and has its own morals to the story. So yeah, it's really good, and it's a children's book, but it's also enjoyed by adults. So yeah, I definitely recommend. And those are my 5 items. I hope that you check some of these out. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ann Beckenstead. I work here at the library, and I'm going to give my 5 recommendations for 2023. First book I want to recommend is 100 Things to Do in Iowa Before You Die, and this is by Sarah Broers. I actually bought this book through Heidi at Sally Salvage, and it's also sold at the Ritz here in town, because believe it or not, the Ritz is in this book, and 2 other special places here in Dyersville that I hold dear to my heart. But so Dyersville has 3 in the top 100. And you have to read it to find out the other 2. Next thing I'm going to recommend is Lyrical Iowa 2023. And this is their 78th year, and we have most of these. Not every single one of them, but we have most of these. And this year it's dear to my heart because 6 of our writers in our writers group got published in this. So there was 6 of us that submitted. You could submit 5 poems, and the most you can get published in the book is 1 item. And there were 6 of us, including myself, that got published. So all of us that tried got in, and one of our writers, Samantha Birds, who's also an employee here, she actually got honorable mention. She didn't get in the cash, but she did get in the top 6. Love, love, love J.D. Robb, which if you don't know, it's Nora Roberts writing as J.D. Robbs, and people are like, why does she write, you know, so many people know Nora Roberts? And the reason she did, and just so you know, this is book 57 in a series. The reason she did this was it was a whole different spin-off from what she was writing as Nora Roberts. So her publishers was like, you know, you need to try it under a different name, and then if it's successful, which obviously it is, you can start, you know, letting people know that it's J.D. Robb and Nora Roberts are the same person. So the reason I recommend this is I love a good series, whether it's on TV whether it's in a book, just because I feel part of their lives. And I've read all 57, so again, I'd recommend this. Next author who I love is Heather Goodenkoff, and I re-listened to all her books this year because I couldn't remember. It's like, oh, I know I missed one, but which one was it? And this one here was her latest, The Overnight Guest, and she keeps you wanting. Well, I listen to most of my books, but I do read some. Sometimes I'm listening in the car on a long trip, but I'll bring along the book, so in case I get to a point where I want to keep reading, that I can just pick up where I left off. So that's how much I love Heather Goodenkoff. She keeps me on the edge of my seat and keeps wanting me to turn the page. Finally, my last pick is Janet Ivanovich, and I had kind of quit reading her, and then I was looking for something light, humorous. It actually makes you laugh out loud. I grabbed the book form because I couldn't find the audio. I actually listened to it on audio, and I'm currently listening to her newest one. But this one, Going Rogue, was awesome, and this is book 29. So again, I love series. If you want to laugh out loud, this is the book for you. Thanks, and have a great day.
Hi, this is Brian. I am recommending 5 items for the coming year, or just enjoying the rest of 2023. All right, first item I am recommending is the movie Murder on the Orient Express. You might have heard of the book. It's rather famous, by Agatha Christie. It involves a detective by the name of Hercule Poirot. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. Is difficult French. The movie itself involves him on the train in the murder mystery, as you might expect. And what comes up as a twist is that everyone on the train has a reason to murder the poor guy. And is a series of movies. We have the second one in the series. Hopefully we'll get the third one that has just recently come out in theaters. It is a rather enjoyable murder mystery, and I usually don't like those, so it is a pleasant surprise. Right, moving on to the next item. Somewhat, it is the book Starter Villain by John Scalzi. It is a very humorous villain origin story where a man named Charlie, a substitute teacher, at his uncle's funeral discovers that he has inherited his uncle's villain business, and complete with a volcano lair, super intelligent cats, and unionized villainous dolphins. It is a very humorous villain book, and growing up, I was always the kid who enjoyed the villains more than the heroes. So any type of villain book like this, I enjoy greatly. Very, very comical. If you like this one, we have several other books by John Scalzi to enjoy as well. In a similar vein, but much darker, is the book Hench by Natalie Walsatz. Is another villain origin story, but in a much darker take. If you've enjoyed the TV show The Boys, you would know what to kind of expect. It involves a person who is it starts off with her going to a mass interview for a temp firm, and it works her way up to basically Lex Luthor levels. Is a lot of twists and turns of going from very clever villain, and I recommend it. It is much darker than the previous one, but if you enjoy villain stories, this is a very good one to check out. And complete genre twist, and also not even genre, it's nonfiction. This is a very popular TikToker who wrote a book, and is baking yesteryear, as it says, the best recipes from 1900s to 1980s. Made a lot of recipes from those old cooking books that we've all seen at book sales and garage sales, and he's done a lot of short videos exploring them, testing them out. I really enjoy retro, and I also enjoy older cooking because it makes things so much simpler with a lot of older recipes. So they only had so many ingredients to work with. And he's made a lot of those older recipes also more accessible by explaining the terms used and a lot of the different terms for the food and for the utensils. Sorry. Alright, I'll just kind of flip through to show some of the awesome looking cakes. I particularly enjoy something called the Peanut Butter King. It's things like leftover bread pancakes that are very good. Just a lot of good cooking recipes in here. And somewhat related to that, and going into more in depth to a certain ingredient, is the Book of Cheese by Liz Thorpe. It is, as it says, all about different types of cheese. Despite being originally from Wisconsin and having a lot of relatives in Wisconsin and then moving to Iowa, which also has a fair amount of its cheese lovers, I am terrible at recognizing cheeses and knowing what type of cheese I might like. And so this book helped me out a lot of figuring out what people the heck are talking about when they say Gouda or Gorgonzola and all the different types of cheeses that you can see around here. And I'm looking forward to showing off some more knowledge when I go shopping for cheeses during the year. Alright, and I think that is my complete collection. Is there anything else that you...
We'll cut this part out, but if you wanted to just
also,
quick...
I think don't remember if I mentioned the author name for this.
I think you did.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just want to quickly say, those are like my 5 recommendations for the year. Hope you guys enjoy them or something to that effect.
Sure. Those are my 5 recommendations for the year. I hope you all enjoyed them, and it was very informative and entertaining.
All right.
Hi, this is Joe. I'm a clerk down at the library at the circulation desk, so we call me a circ clerk. Joe Amundsen here, and I will greet you when you come in, and I will encourage you to check out this. This is Taste of Home's Grandma's Favorites. I have to say that I didn't have a grandma, never knew either one of them here in the United States of America, but boy, if you have a grandma, let me tell you, this is the book for you. It's everything that you can think of. I love it. And if you want to make something, you can bring it in and I'll test it. No, that's a joke. This is a very interesting book. I'm sure that you heard of the Dugard family, and they had like 19 children way back when, and it was one of the big televised programs. And what was interesting with this is that they lived a lot by rules and regulations, and this is called Becoming Free. Indeed. And there is a way to not have to live under law, but it's by faith. And she realized, she being Ginger, realized that she had no peace. There was lots of anxiety, there was a lot of fear and tradition. But when she came to faith, she found out that the Word of God is what gives freedom. And it was quite an interesting book to read, because when you get back here, you'll find out a group that they were using to teach their children, and it was so much boom, 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 and no life and love in it. So I really enjoyed this, Becoming Free. Now, everything that I have is nonfiction, means it's really, really true. All right, this one, oh my goodness, this one is Hannah's Gift. Now, a lot of people have been hit with cancer in the family or whatever, but when a little child, 3 years of age, is hit with cancer, it's tough. And the journey that they took is just fantastic. I really want you to read this to count your blessings. I don't know if you've ever heard of an honor walk, but an honor walk is what takes place, and I'll read this correctly, at an odd pause between life and death. Either brain dead has been declared already, or a donor that's waiting, has a heartbeat, and is going to eventually die. And they eventually means in minutes. And they walk down the hall of the hospital to the operating room. The patient, who is the donor, who is giving whatever they're giving, has the problem, I guess you could say, or toughness of walking, the family walking behind that person who is the donor. And I've seen several videos of it, and it's quite interesting. I won't even go into all my little notes on Hannah, but she, I said it was an eye-opener, it was reality, it was a challenge, it was insightful, and it was heart-rendering. But sometimes we need to read things like that. I work with kids. I've got basically 60 years of experience with kids, and this is a tremendous book. Nonfiction, also, called Tiny Humans and Big Emotions. And in this day and age, our kids, I think, are being raised quite different than some of us older people. My kids, both grown and have their own children, commented that, yeah, Mom has the look. And the look works. But this is great, expressing so many things about how to navigate tantrums and meltdowns, and how to, if there's defiance, to raise emotionally intelligent children. People need to see the limitations you give the child and what security that is. Now, I want you to pay attention to this, my 5th book. I checked this out, I read it, and now I want my husband to buy it for me. He doesn't even have to wait until Christmas. He can buy it right away. This is called Choosing Gratitude. Everything that we have in our emotions is a choice, be it joy, be it madness, anger, hate, love, whatever. And this is a wonderful book written by Nancy DeMoss Walgrom, and I want you to get a hold of this. Now, all of my books, I prefer nonfiction because there's always a takeaway for me. It can inform, educate, challenge, bless, convict, affirm, direct, enlighten, encourage, etc. And you know what they say? Try it, you'll like it. Bye.
Hi, I'm Audrey from the James Kennedy Public Library, and I'm clerk up here at the library, so I get to see and check out a lot of new books that come through. And the ones that really interested me were, first of all, this one, Historic Tales of Old Dubuque. And it tells you everything about the history of Dubuque, the formation of it, including when Abraham Lincoln visits and the railway comes through. I really recommend it for history buffs. My second one is a Mind Diet Cookbook, which is I used along with my brain fitness class, and it really helps you to find easy recipes that are very nutritious, and just it lays it out very well and for you to make these nutritious recipes. My third one is actually a magazine. It's called Mary Jane's Farm, and this is as well goes through nutrition and whole grains, living holistically, and actually tells you what to pick up and what not to pick up to make these recipes. And I found it just very, very interesting. My fourth is a primary book, and it's called Two Dogs. And I love this because it goes through the capers of two dogs that are home alone. And I have two dogs that are home alone. And I know exactly the scenario that these two go for, and trying to hide their adventures from their master. So I really, it's by Ian Falconer, and it's really a lovely book. Last but not least is We Don't Eat Our Classmates. And this one, when I ran into it, when I was scanning it in back into the library, I had to sit and read it. And it is just so cute. It is wonderful. It's all about this dinosaur that is not supposed to eat his classmates. And he tries and tries, but he just wants to eat them. And it is hysterically funny, and it's so very well written. So those are my 5 picks.
Hi, I'm Debbie Gunkoff from the James Kennedy Library, and I'm going to tell you about my 5 favorite things that I have checked out of the library this year, or that I have found that's different. So my first thing is always large print. There's a ton of large print books, and I just want you to know that there's every genre that there is to take. So I haven't read this one yet, but I just picked it up so that you know. On the spine it has large print on it, and it's in a special area in the library. And then my next thing is that my paper shredder started on fire at home. So in our LOT lot of things, we have a paper shredder that you can check out and bring home and shred your papers with. And then the next thing is that Shirley makes up packets for adults every month. And there is Sudoku, there's word scrambles, there's mazes, seek and spot, or word search, and then coloring pages for adults. And then she also does coloring pages for children too. So those are things that you can pick up to do in your spare time at home, or if you have time to do stuff. And what I've recently started doing is doing the puzzle under the skylight in the library. And that's put out the first of the month. And then every time that you work on the puzzle, you can put your name in for a drawing. And then at the end of the month, they draw a name out who can bring the puzzle home. So this is one of the puzzles that you can take out from the library to bring home also. And then my last thing is because I have my grandchildren up here all the time, is the train in the children's area, and they can play with that, and that sometimes they spend hours playing with the train. So that's what I wanted to tell you. Thanks.
Hi everyone, this is Krista, the new children's librarian at the James Kennedy Public Library, and I am here to share with you my favorite books, children's books for this year. My first one is Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Sleigh by Mo Willems. It is, of course, a favorite because it's by Mo Willems, so it's hilarious, and it has the pigeon in it, so definitely pick this book up. We also have A New Dog Man, 20,000 Fleas Under the Sea. It is by Dave Pilkey, and it's a graphic novel, so it's in between our regular picture books and chapter books. So it's a great introduction to chapter books because it's broken down into chapters. So that's why I love graphic novels. It's a great intro into chapter books, and it's funny. I have another funny graphic novel, Investigator. It's about alligators who are investigating a crime, by John Patrick Green. It's really funny. It's another one to check out. And I have the 13-Story Treehouse by Andy Griffith, because the 156-story treehouse is checked out, but that is our newest one in this series. So go ahead and check out any of the ones in this series by Andy Griffith. They're all really funny, very good. They do have pictures interspersed too, so even though they are chapter books, they do have some pictures. So anybody who is a little intimidated by just regular chapter books, this is another great introduction. And my absolute favorite book of the year is Alone by Megan Freeman. It is a book that is written in verse, so it is very impactful in very few words. So it's like reading a bunch of poems, but they make up this amazing story. So definitely check out this one. It's actually in our young adult section, but it is written for grades 4 to 6. So you guys can pick this up and read this book. It is fantastic. It was nominated for the Iowa Children's Choice Award last year as well. So you can pick up any of these books or any other books in our library and have a happy time reading.
Hi, this is Dawn at the James Kennedy Public Library, and I am here to tell you about 5 things that I discovered at the library this year. The first is this book of essays by Deborah Marquardt. It's called The Night We Landed on the Moon. Marquardt is the Iowa Poet Laureate. She's most widely known as a poet. We had the privilege of her coming to visit us earlier this year, but this book of essays was different. It with the format of her being able to tell a longer story rather than a short condensed poem, it was sort of a way to get to know her better and hear her thoughts, and they just were very interesting. And I officially, the book is subtitled Essays Between Exile and Belonging. So those spaces where you think you don't quite belong. So I would recommend just checking this out. If you don't think this is really your thing, this might be a good way to be introduced. I'd also really recommend her poetry. The next book that I discovered this year, and this is probably one of my most favorite books I've read this year, is called Lasagna Means I Love You by Kate O'Shaughnessy. And I'm showing you a picture because the book is checked out. This is actually, this is a kid's book, ages, chapter book 4 to 6. But again, one of the best books I read this year. And it's a story about a girl who is in foster care, and what she wants more than anything is this idea of being able to connect to family and to connect to people. And she loves food, and she has this great idea about how you can connect through food. And so she sets out to write a cookbook featuring recipes from people that she knows and meets. And woven through that, of course, is her story of being in foster care and what all that entails. And it was beautiful and heartbreaking and funny. And as a foodie, I could connect with the idea of connecting with food. And I loved every minute of it, and I highly recommend it. The next is Cinematic Places by Sarah Baxter. Now, this is a different kind of book. Sarah Baxter does this whole series of, they're considered inspired traveler guides, and I'll show you. And this one is information and drawings based on real places where movies were filmed. She has other ones that are like places that are considered sacred, places everyone should go, places featured in books. And so basically what it is, it's about 2 pages long each. There's a beautiful illustration of the place, and then a page or two describing, for this one in particular, the cinematic places, how it was used in the movie, how it was different maybe than it was used in the movie, who was in the movie, a little bit of background about that, and some highlights about it. And it just very interesting, very quick read. Again, I recommend all of her inspired travel guides. They're just very unique. My other book that I just recently discovered, and again is checked out, so I have to show you a picture, is At the Coffee Shop of Curiosities by Heather Weber. Heather Weber is an author I only discovered about a year ago. And if you like a little bit of, I don't know if I would call it magic per se. If you're a fan of Sarah Addison Allen, this book is similar. The characters always have like a quirky little ability. Some might say it's a little bit of magic. But this was also a beautiful story of finding your place in the world, finding home. Family is what you make it, and those kind of connections. And it was so fun to read about this girl who on a whim moves to this small town to take a job that turns out was never actually available, but somehow she had gotten a job wanted notice about it. And the way that plays out from her sheltered life as she meets this quirky little town full of characters and starts to learn what it feels like to be part of a community. And then the last thing I don't have a picture of, and it's from our library of things, and it's the Belgian waffle maker. I know that sounds kind of odd, and it's not, and it is something we've had for a few years, but I find I repeatedly go back to it time and time again to borrow and use. It makes a fun weekend dinner on a Saturday night with leftover batter for more waffles on Sunday brunch. And it's nice that I don't have to own it or store it. I can get it from the library when I need it, and it's here. And so I would recommend you check that out as well. So there you are. Those are my 5 favorite things I discovered in the library this year.